Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Crossover. Starring Josh Johnson and Chris McGill. Featuring Christina Thorson. And of course, you, the Instagram live chat. Now, sit back and enjoy this week's edition of The Crossover. Powered by Card Ladder.
Yo.
What's up?
Do you remember how to do this show?
No, but it's really not hard to do.
Exactly.
So that's what we have working for us.
Read the questions, kind of answer them.
Right. Yep. Take it.
Come back.
Oh, let's go. That is a harbinger of good things to come.
I saw Bradley Beal get injured, and I just was like, well, I need a beer.
It wasn't serious though, right? It's just an ankle thing. It's gonna be another 2 weeks.
It's just like, hey, look, they're all three together. Yeah, just kidding. He's hurt. And I'm going to the game. I'm going to the game on Sunday. I was like, just one game. Stay healthy, everybody. Nope.
Nope. Oh, that sucks. All right. Oh, we have our first title as well. Do you have? Well, first of all, let me welcome everybody to the show today.
See, you didn't know how to do. You forgot.
Oh, I know. I even have it written down. Okay, welcome everybody to the show. Today is Friday, December 15th, and announcements. Do we have any announcements to make?
No, I think we're good.
Christina?
I think we're good as well.
All right, we think we're good. Delmar Sports Cars wants to know, why is there a moderator? In case any of you guys get out of pocket and you got to go. Stiff Arm Wax will be moderating, as he does every week. All right. And then the other is mail days. Do you have any mail days?
I do.
Nice.
I do have a mail day. Do you?
I have none.
All right. I'll do my best then. 2006 Bowman Chrome Gold Refractor PSA 9.
Nice.
I'm gonna need you to try harder.
Nice. That's awesome.
Well, this did finish my Bowman Gold run. So I now have 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for Bowman Golds. And now I've completed Chrome, Bowman, and Finest, unless you count the XRC for Finest.
I assume you don't have them all out right now, do you?
No, I took a picture of them earlier.
Yeah, all right, let me pull up the picture. Top row is the full run of the Topps Chrome Gold. Middle row is the Finest Gold, and the bottom row is the Bowman Chrome Gold, including rookies.
Yep, and I've tried to get as many PSA 10s. I think I have 11 PSA 10s. A lot of those, some of those PSA 10s are like, they're all pop 10 and lower. I think one of them's a pop 2. There's like another one that's a pop 4. So some of the PSA 10s are pretty low.
Nice. How long did that take?
Well, I think we're at about like 4 or 5 years now.
That's it?
It takes a while. I mean, that Bowman rookie took a while because it's not like my favorite one, so I just kept putting it off.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's incredible. When did you get the Bowman rookie? Did you?
This year.
Yeah, it was recent. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like probably 3 or 4 months ago.
That's awesome. Congrats, man. All right. I will have a big mail day soon. I've been waiting almost 3 months to tell you guys what this card is.
This is the acquisition card?
Yeah. This is the
All
card
right.
that had to sit in the vault for 3 months.
Right.
It's almost time. We're the mark of the 3 months is in like 2 weeks.
And that's because of the company you bought it from's rules, or is it a government thing?
Oh no, it's the rule of the vault. The
Got
rule
it.
of vault is that the fee to take it out goes down after it's been there for 3 months.
I like when we set up rules that don't benefit collectors. I don't understand that, but whatever.
Well, I'm not even a little bit excited about the card anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say, it's like, I don't even remember what I know what it is, but it's like I barely even remember what it was.
Yeah. We'll see how I like this procedure.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, you should do like a little bit of a recap for us.
Yeah, when the time comes. Yeah, Jason says 3% versus 1% matters. Yeah, it definitely does.
Of course it does, man. You need that money for other cards.
Right, exactly. Need that money for these repacks. All right.
We're so
All right.
topical on the crossover.
Thank you. We have lots of questions, so let's get started on the questions. Up first, from T-Time, very important question that we get this right. Is 8 p.m. Pacific time? Is
I think I'm gonna answer this question. You're the one that's not good at time.
I know. Yes, that's why I just wanted to make sure we get this on the record. Is 8 p.m. Pacific the equivalent of midnight Eastern or 11 p.m. Eastern?
Pacific and Eastern are always 3 hours apart, people. Always. Arizona, where I live, is the one that goes back and forth. So sometimes we're on Pacific time, sometimes we're on Mountain Standard. Right now we're on Mountain Standard.
See? There you go. Did you know there's half time zones? Did we talk about this already?
It's too late. No, I don't want to do that.
Okay. There are half time zones. Look, people can Google that. All right. Up next. Two questions on this. Well, no, actually one with a follow-up. So I'll just do them one at a time. Warning Track Power says, please discuss the Bowman Brady nonsense. And should we expect more of this from Fanatics? And so for those who are unaware, 2023 Bowman Draft has a base Tom Brady card and an autograph Tom Brady card. And the checklist calls it the 1995 Bowman Dream Draft Picks Tom Brady set checklist. He's the only player on the checklist. The base version has, I don't know, looks like maybe about 8 or 10 parallels. And then the autograph version, it's numbered to, it's gold, it's numbered to 50, and then there's also an orange out of 25, a red out of 5, and a super fractor 1 of 1. And eBay completed results are suggesting that these cards are selling for a lot.
So the superfractor auto was pulled, but not the regular superfractor. I haven't seen anyone talk about that.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I gotta admit, I'm not super interested. I'm not following it that closely.
Yeah. Okay. So the superfractor auto got pulled, and a bunch of people were up in arms because, like, oh, the chase card's already been pulled. You know, it was the first day. You know, it kind of took the steam out. But now I'm just realizing there's still the base superfractor, which I personally would rather have. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think there's still some fun chase to it left. Why is it nonsense? Am I missing some context that is this bad?
Well, it's a gimmick.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's a reach because this isn't an organic card.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Here's what this is. Tom Brady is close with Michael Rubin.
Yeah.
Right? And Michael Rubin is very interested in doing everything he can to grow the industry. And so he has a relationship with Tom Brady. There's an opportunity to make trading cards involving Tom Brady. And there's an opportunity for Tom Brady to record commercials, theatrical trailers,
right,
promoting this card that then get engagement from like Eli Manning. Eli Manning's doing reply videos to it. You know, so there's obviously this massive promotional opportunity for cards. But it's an awkward fit because Brady's retired and the football licenses haven't come under Fanatics' control yet. So we have this.
Yeah. It sounds like you don't like it. I don't mind it that much. I don't know. Like I guess I'm just not that upset about the manufacturers trying to get a little more creative.
I'm fine with it too.
Yeah.
Not
Like,
against it. I'm just not. It hasn't pulled me in either. I really.
sure, no, like you and I would not chase it, buy it, but if it's gonna like garner up some interest and get people excited to open wax, I don't see the negative of that part of it, I think it's kind of fun.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's definitely fun, and it's the same song on loop where these cards are going for $1 billion right now, and it's just not. Yeah, it's not gonna last.
Right.
But people are having fun. People are liking it. Knock yourselves out. Tom Brady is making theatrical trailers for the hobby. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, we're usually the ones that dump water on some of these like overly optimistic things, but I don't know. For some reason I have this like soft spot for the manufacturers trying new things.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And especially when it's the the incumbent manufacturer that's going to be producing cards for our favorite sports. Like I want to see them like work out some of the kinks before they get to basketball. Work out some of the ideas, see how they play, maybe test some new theories that Ruben was talking about with like how he cuts out like the distributor, the middleman type thing, or he's talking about redemptions and how that's going. Like I like these things that he's kind of working through, and hopefully by the time we get to basketball, we're ready to go.
Right. Look at we have optimist Josh on the stream tonight.
What am I supposed to do? We don't have a choice, dude.
Let's see how long this lasts. Okay. Then there was a follow-up from Drake who said, if Michael Jordan had a gold refractor autograph or non-autograph in a baseball jersey, are you a buyer? And Drake, let me just tell you right now, Michael Jordan does have gold parallels showing him in a baseball uniform. Now, that's a facsimile autograph, but this is the 1994 Collector's Choice gold signature, card number 635, Michael Jordan, showing him in a White Sox uniform. And there are probably, would it be excessive to say dozens? There's definitely handfuls of baseball cards of Michael Jordan, and some rarer than others, some quite rare. And there's plenty of people who collect them. It's not nearly as collected as his Bulls uniform stuff, but there's plenty of people who collect them. And not only that, he has golf cards. He has Haynes cards.
Space Jam, maybe?
Maybe, probably. He has, all the...
He has Space Jam IP cards.
Space Jam IP cards, Christina says. He has all sorts of different, non-basketball, non-Bulls jersey cards out there, and they continue to come out in Upper Deck products, like the most recent Metal Universe, which shows him wearing a charity basketball game jersey and stuff. So, it's already out there, and it's a hard no for me. I don't collect any of that stuff. So, all right, moving on here.
I think one of his more popular autographs is him in a baseball uniform, because it's like it predates some of his early 90s auto stuff, I believe.
And I believe that's an oversized card to boot.
Mm-hmm. I'm also thinking of that Olympic jersey autograph one, which exists. You didn't mention the Olympic stuff. He has one of those that's pretty popular.
Very true. Very true. All right. Oh, Cage says Upper Deck has cards with LeBron in a football uniform. I did recently look at some of those.
Yep.
Yes. Those are some of the last autographs he signed were on those cards.
Yep. He also has one with him dressed as an old man. So he has lots of stuff.
All right. Moving on. AP Cards 23 says, I appreciate you hobby golems.
Golems.
Oh my god.
What is a golem?
Oh my god. Christina, come on.
I hate
what is he
I tried
this
Lord of
guy's
the Rings. I couldn't do Lord of the Rings.
This guy's watching Seinfeld and he hasn't seen Lord of the Rings. Come on.
I can't.
I'm on season 5 almost of Seinfeld.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
You must have been sick.
I'm sorry. Like, you just little geek out with me.
Yeah.
If I can work in a Seinfeld episode tonight, because I have something that I've been thinking about, I will work
Oh
it
my god, that stupid show.
I'm like notoriously not a fan of all the like Star Wars, Star Trek, like nerdy type stuff, but I like Lord of the Rings. It's like my one that I like because it is kind of I don't know, they're like well done movies. They've won a bunch of awards too, I believe.
I tried the movie way back when it came out, and it just put me to bed.
They're long.
Yeah, very long. Okay, all right. So anyway, from AP Cards 23, I'm always scared to see what kind of people my favorite athletes are in case they suck. But this week, 2 of my favorite stars, Patrick Mahomes and Giannis, both showed pretty bad unsportsmanlike behavior in my view. Do you think this was just instances of these guys having a bad day? Or is there an entitlement/character problem with pro athletes that we put on pedestals? Specifically, Mahomes was crapping on the officials for making a correct penalty call and then having to be held back from a teammate. And Giannis was running around like a madman, dismantling the stadium, looking for the game ball. Both had legitimate reasons, but I still hated how they behaved.
I think Mahomes was going after the ref, by the way. I thought he was being held back from like teammate, but I believe it was a ref.
Okay. Noted.
Just to clarify that.
Clarification noted. Well, how does this affect us? How does this affect LeBron's legacy?
When Mahomes did, you know how the quarterbacks always meet and they do their little thing? I was watching that part live, and he was like it was like so fresh that he was like still bitching about it when he was high-fiving Allen. Allen was like, yeah, man, it's crazy. No, it's crazy. He's just like, he was like bitching about it to Allen, who just won the game, and he's like, oh, yeah, that was crazy, man.
Yeah. You don't see that very often. Almost always
Right.
there's a lot of graciousness in the post-game handshake.
They usually get it together before the handshake, like almost sometimes even like right before, but they always do. But he let it bleed over, and it was hilarious. And the Giannis one was so strange. He was like going crazy, screaming at Halliburton. Halliburton's like, "What do you want me to do about it, dude?"
Yeah. So, is this something that AP Cards should be worried about?
I don't think so. No, like people find things to pick at with MJ and LeBron and Kobe and everyone has like some off-field thing that bothers them. Jordan's gambling and LeBron, is like politics or whatever. Like people always are.
I wouldn't be too worried about it either. I mean, God, these guys have their lives under intense scrutiny for many hours a week,
Right.
in high-stakes, stressful environments. People are going to do dumb stuff under those circumstances. I would think a lot more than actually happened. So,
well, so how do you categorize Draymond Green with this? With these, is that different? He gets his own category.
Draymond is not even in the same universe as these two, right? Draymond is punching people. Someone called it. I forget who called this. One of the pundits called it an MMA spin move into Yusuf Nurkic.
I just love his I was just trying to sell the foul where he was touching your side. I don't what are you talking about? And to sell a foul you karate chop someone in the face? I just like dude, we don't believe you. You're lying. You're clearly just wanting to hit people. It's fine. Just say it.
Stiff Arm Wax says it was a spinning back fist. So,
and his last two, if you look at all these ones where you play him back, first he was going for the nut shots. Now he's going to the MMA with the chokeholds, the spinning. Next he's just gonna drop kick somebody.
Well, Jason Gallagher had a nice tweet that said basically now every NBA player's testicles are safe. For as long as Draymond is suspended. That is where I fall on the Draymond thing. Is it's gotten to a point because it's not just the Jordan Poole punch or just the nut shot or just the spinning back fist or the choke of Gobert. there's like smaller infractions where he's like clawing people's eyes,
Right.
which happened multiple times, or kicking, or stomping on Sabonis' chest, or kicking Steven Adams in the nuts. And it's gotten to the point this year though where the frequency has ramped up so much that I don't like the teams that I root for. I don't feel like they're safe when he's on the floor.
Right.
And when it gets to that point, it's like, yeah, I would prefer if he was not playing.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of the Talking Dinguses this week on this topic, and I disagreed with almost all of them. But Barkley was talking about it, and he was saying like he's doing all this because he's not as good anymore, and now he's got to like resort even more to these tactics. Like he's just running out of ways to impact the game with his play. So he's, this is what he's got to do. He knows he's not as good, so he's got to like cheat basically.
Not a bad take.
And then the other take, which I kind of stole from you, but I was like really annoyed at the indefinite thing and the whole like, he's having personal issues off the court. Which, by the way, how do we know that? We're just like implying that he has that this is happening because he's having some sort of drama at his house. Is that what we're saying? We don't know that. The indefinite thing bothers me because it's like now we're just going to make this about like, he's going to go into therapy or he's going to go to get anger management, and it's like this guy doesn't want to. He's going to fucking say whatever it takes to get back. All he wants to do is make money. The only way to actually make this guy change is to take away his money, and the only way you can do that is suspend him for length. I said 20 games, and then you said more.
Yeah, I said the whole year.
I mean, the 5 games I thought was insane for the chokehold, so that probably should have been 20. And then, if you keep ramping them up, then this one could be the whole season.
Yeah, for sure.
The one thing I want to say is, like, Josh just said, like, I want to, like, extend on Josh's point of, like, he says that he's having issues at home, and, like, that's what's causing him to behave like this in a professional.
Oh, he didn't say that.
Like,
he didn't say that.
World, are you allowed to act like that at work and it be okay because you're having issues at home?
He didn't say that. People are saying that they're guessing that's what's happening. That's what's driving me nuts. So, like, they're just guessing that he's having issues, or he's just fucking Draymond Green and he's a jackass.
Yeah. All right. Next topic here from Townie Cards. Actually, I have 2 questions that are very similar, so I'm going to read them back to back. Townie Card says, should content creators be more transparent about what they currently own when they discuss cards to their audience? This goes for Reels as well. Should they, at a minimum, use an asterisk and have a link on their Instagram to a page that lists all of their current cards that they own? I feel like this should be a standard protocol. Do you agree? And then Drake's PC says, what responsibility do content creators have to disclose potential conflicts of interest?
Oh, man. I'll let you go first on this one. You always do a nice job with this.
Well, all right. So let's go with the Drake aspect, the Drake question. What responsibility do content creators have to disclose potential conflicts of interest? Well, I think it all boils down to what level of credibility a content creator wants to have when discussing cards. Is it probably okay for a person to keep a private collection and still go on social media or go into public settings or have private conversations with people and give opinions that might or that do relate to the cards that they own? Yeah, that's probably okay. That's probably okay because you have to balance the interests of a person's right to privacy versus the audience's right to know what they own. So, I think that's like a judgment call that a person can make. A PPC, a private personal collection. It's like we can just start there and just kind of set the table from that. But then you get to the question of, all right, so even if there's not like a strong moral obligation to have to, make sure every person you're talking to at all times knows everything that you own.
Right.
Is there a question of credibility that's always looming in the background? Yes, there is. So the way I look at it is, if I later find out, like let's say I'm privately messaging with the collector and they're singing the praises of a specific card, and I later find out after, months after, weeks after, that this person owns 3 copies of this card, that person will have lost credibility with me.
Right. Exactly.
Because I would certainly have expected them to tell me, hey, look, just so you know, I do own 3 copies of this card, but that's evidence that I believe in the card. And now let me tell you why I think it's such a great card, or why the card's so important to me, or whatever. And it doesn't even have to be the same card. If somebody owns a copy of a card of a different player from the same parallel, from the same set or something, that's where I come down on it, Josh, is that there's a credibility question here that I think, content creators probably would want to take seriously. I take it very seriously as a content creator to say, to the extent that I'm capable of doing it without annoying people by repeatedly saying it. If I have a clear bias with regards to owning a card or a company or whatever, I definitely want, for my own benefit as well as for the person I'm talking to's benefit, I want to point out, hey, just so you know, I have a bias here. I own this card, or I work for this company, or I'm associated with this company, for my own credibility.
Yep. You said that you have to strike the balance of not annoying people and telling them every single bias you have at all times. I think the 99% of the cases that we're talking about are just like common sense. Like, this is a reel I'm making that is an ad for a company for one specific card. This is probably a good time to bring it up. Or, when we're talking about, when people ask us, what's your favorite grading company and why, that's a great time for us to be like, before we answer, we should tell you we actually work for the company that is a sister company of PSA. So we have like this really strong built-in bias. So you can take our opinion on it, and we have opinions as collectors outside of the business that we can give, but you also have to know, like, it's also going to be dripping with bias that we work for the company, right? It's just like common sense of when to bring it up, in my opinion.
Yeah. And, excuse me. Yeah, I think that like 99% of the cases are totally common sense. And the thing about credibility is that it's easy to lose it, and it's tough to get it back.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just like, what's the downside to just being,
right.
Yeah. I guess maybe the downside concern is that, well, if people know that I own copies of this card, then they're not going to take my opinion seriously if I talk about it. Well, but guess what? If that's true, that's even more of a reason why people should know, so that you're not deceiving them when a card is being discussed. So,
yeah, in other spaces, especially like obviously in the content influencer world, like when you're looking at what products people are using, like, oh, I want to know like what my favorite, like for instance, like I'm in the running space. What my favorite like running people, what gear they wear, or what sort of like tips they have. If they are just like sponsored by them, I usually am like, I'm really not even gonna like listen to what they have to say about that. But if they're not sponsored by anybody, then I do take more, I pay more attention to it. So it might be some of that, Chris, where they're like thinking, if I tell them what my biases are, then they just like won't even listen to the rest because I think it's just going to be that, So I get that part of it, but to your point, once you lose that credibility and we find out that you didn't tell us, it like everything you say after is toast.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Christina, did you have
I have a closing thought.
All right.
I believe it was Drake who said they should like link out, or was it Townie?
Townie.
The problem with that, Townie, is that you're gonna have a link to a blank website. For a lot of guys, because they don't actually own cards at all.
All right, there we go. The closing remark from Christina. All right.
Yeah, we take this side of it. Just one more thing. Christina reminded me of just having her speak. We take this really seriously on the card ladder side, just like putting in all of as much of this information that we can in writing on like our terms of service and on our FAQs and then all of our documentation where we're explaining the product. We make sure it's really clear how we come up with some of our numbers, because we don't want people thinking, there's some sort of bias baked in specific cards that we might own. Like, we don't want any sort of like uncertainty or gray area in that. It's very like black and white how it technically works with the math. And so that part on the card ladder business side is really important to us. So it's always in writing. That's important as well. So having the link out is an interesting idea, just because I'm thinking about, if you have it in writing, you're kind of giving yourself another layer of protection. But to your point, when we get on these shows, we have to say it again because people aren't reading our terms of service while we're doing the crossover,
Right. Exactly right. The place where I feel uncomfortable or draw the line is when it's like, all right, do I, how many times should I point out that before we talk about Michael Jordan cards, guess what? I collect Michael Jordan cards.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think in general, it only helps to just.
You'd rather be annoying than destroy your own credibility. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. All right. Another spicy topic of the last few weeks from Mike Pinkerton 50.
Oh.
What are your thoughts about everybody doing repacks?
Oh, man. Well, specifically about the question about everyone doing it, people are running out of ways to like make money and stay viable in this industry. So this is like the next. It was like everyone was a breaker. Everyone had a hobby business. Everyone had a tech thing they were building or some blockchain way to make cards. Like, that was the thing, and now I guess this is the newest one. So people are trying to stay viable and find ways to make money and be involved.
Right. Yeah, and clearly there's demand for them, right? That's why so many people are able to make them. It's because there are people buying them.
Yeah, I guess this just falls in like the gambling category for me. Like, I just lump all of this into one. Like, it really isn't even remotely close to collecting. Like, these items that people are buying in these repacks, you're not even trying. It's like literally like a mystery box. You don't even know. So you're clearly not collecting these cards. You're just gonna flip them.
Deep says it feels like the last inning of the junk slab era. Not a point. So I jotted down 3 little things that I thought about for this question, and that's the first one relates to that, which is like, repack buying can distort the market for singles because it creates additional demand for singles that really isn't demand to own the cards. It's demand to turn the cards into a game of chance that can have a profit margin built on top. So that's a concern to me. Another concern to me is that this can become competition to the manufacturer pretty quick. And what does that say then about the price of wax? If people would rather buy into repacks than buy brand new products or sealed product, then if I'm a manufacturer, I'm going to think to myself, wax might be a little too expensive if people are buying recycled slabs instead of my brand new products. And then third is that this has been talked about by others who have gone into more depth on the topic. You and I don't sell repacks. We don't buy repacks. We don't have anything to do with repacks.
Yeah.
I've heard people who are more involved in it talk about it a little bit. And so like it helped me figure out some of the more subtle issues of it. And one of those subtle issues is the need for checklists to be published and the need for the consumer who buys into it to know what all the cards are that are involved in the repack. That would be the checklist. To know the odds of getting the hit or the big card, and to know that the comps are up to date, so that we're not dealing with, so that the consumer isn't coming in and buying into a repack using comps that are a year old. So that ethical transparency would be another thing to keep an eye on with the repacks as well.
Yeah, my not knowing much about repacks, my initial worry as a customer would be, I feel like I'm just buying a mystery box of a layered inside of another mystery box. Like, I don't even know what the totality of what you bought is and what you're bringing down. I don't even know if what I'm paying for is even close to the value. Whereas at least with breaking, I can look up the value of the box that you're breaking because it's coming from, it's like a sealed box of something that has a known quantity. It's got a retail price from the manufacturer. Like, I at least know those figures. I know what's in the box. This is just like, I'm just buying a bunch of plastic slabs. Hopefully this person is ethical enough to like break it up properly,
Right. Exactly. Jake says repack ladder. I don't know. That maybe good.
We should start distancing ourselves from ever being related to repacks in any way.
Well, Josh Luber, presciently, as it turns out, had a whole section in his manifesto or his white paper about repacks. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when this repack topic was coming up, I was like, I want to go back and read what he wrote about repacks, because I remember there being like some substance about them. Like he was thinking about them a lot more seriously years ago. But the manifesto is gone. The website for it is dead. So I couldn't even go read the manifesto.
Well, it was probably really good.
Yep. I'm sure.
Did you download it?
I didn't download it. I didn't.
I have a copy.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I'll go. I'll look at what Luber had to say on repacks.
Report back in 3 weeks when we do our next show. That was for Publius.
Yes. All right. Let's go on here. Drake's PC. Drake.
Did you notice that nobody asked if we're okay? Did anyone even ask, like, how you feeling? No, check up on.
No,
that's fine.
They just lobbed angry comments, which I can understand, because even though like I 50% hate listen to Bill Simmons, if his podcast isn't out by 2 a.m., I'm ready to lob some hateful comments.
He had that one where he did 2 in a week instead of 3, right? Because it was like a longer pod. I was like, what is this shit? It's Wednesday. What am I supposed to do today?
Exactly, dude. That's exactly right. All right. Drake's PC says.
I'm scared of this one.
He says, WTF Frankie podcast did say welcome back. Just jotting down a title here. Okay.
They're probably all thinking like, oh, they look fine. We don't need to ask. They're clearly healthy. Look at them.
We took our time to recuperate. Thank you.
Yeah, we're not NBA players. We need lengthy amounts of time from just when they're like flu-like symptoms in the NBA. Like, who cares? Just play. And for us, we're like, oh my god, I'm dead for a week.
Yeah, but they go into like cryogenic chambers and stuff. You know? Maybe we could put that on the card letter budget.
No.
I
need to start doing those damn ice baths. Fuck.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. Okay. Drake asks this. Discuss collectors becoming flippers / dealers and becoming greedy and money focused, and then burning bridges with the other collectors who helped them get there. And so I just want to say this, right? I think this topic and many topics can be discussed in the abstract instead of being discussed like with specific people, so that nobody gets offended, right? So the ideas are discussed, but that no personal negative statements towards any person are lobbied here.
Oh, well, then I got to start over. Hold on. I gotta delete everything I was gonna say.
Or not. I don't know. Who cares?
No, you're right. I agree. Yeah, this one's tough. He's clearly upset about a specific situation. We know Drake well enough to know that he usually asks questions with personal experience, having the week before, so he's just kind of coming in hot. Yeah, we've been pretty critical of like the flipper thing because we have some issues with like you said, distorting some of the values of card prices, knowing that like they're buying to just sort of like thinking that it's going to be worth more and they're flipping it to someone else, and it causes some issues on the pricing side. And my thought on this one was going to go just to like the topic of reputation. I think there's like a good way to do it and maintain your reputation to be a dealer and a flipper, right? If you're not just like trying to bend everybody over in every single deal, I think that's going to maintain your reputation if you're fair and it's known what you're doing, that you're not collecting and you're sort of in this middle, and people are going to come back to you over and over if you're doing good deals and you have good business. Once you start like burning bridges with individual collectors, like you're never going to have the repeat business, and it's going to end up harming you and the person on the other end and the hobby as a whole long term. So I think that one is pretty simple there. Like try to maintain your reputation through it. That being said, I still feel like anyone, we live in America. People are still like there's not like anyone that's entitled to any specific cards. As much in a perfect world, that would be great. Where like all the perfect cards go with each individual collector, but it doesn't work that way. Like people still have the right to, like, if they want to pay more, they want to take on that risk, then they're the ones or they have the means to find a card quicker. I think that's up for grabs. But the part that's gross is like, I buy a card for $100 and I know Drake, for example, wants it. And then I go to Drake and be like, that's going to be $1,000, but I need to 10x my money. That's like, all right, come on. Seriously, you need to 10x your money? Like, I don't know. This is tough, man. I don't think I can win on this one.
Yeah, no, it is really tough. I really like the point you made too, that like there's a skill involved,
right,
in locating and acquiring these cards and moving quick and having trade baits and cash available to pick up these cards. So, all right, Christina has a comment that she wants to give.
I don't know what Josh means. There is one card that someone has been earmarked for someone in this hobby, and I think we can all agree it's the 2020 Prism Fast Break Neon Green out of 5 of Maxi Kleba. And if anyone has that and it does not fall into my hands, I will burn this hobby to the ground. Yeah.
All right. All right. So look, I'm going to do something a little bit extreme. Okay.
Yes. Let's go.
This is not a perfect analogy by any means, but I just thought of it. As you were talking, I was thinking to myself, what's an analogy to describe the anger of the Drakes of the world? Oh God. Okay. I just saw a comment that was great. All right.
Fuck you, Chris Pouliot.
All right. So, Big Pharma. I just watched a movie during my sickness about pharmaceutical companies and raising the prices of their medicine.
Yep.
Right? And people who need that medicine getting really pissed off that one pill costs $1,000 or whatever. And there's market dynamics at play there, and patent law enables the manufacturer of pharmaceuticals to sort of control the supply and corner the market for a period of years and so forth. That's complicated, because you have to incentivize the manufacturers to want to create, but then anyway, there's a little bit of that here, in the sense that, like, of course the people who want the medication want it at the cheapest price they can get it. And when they have to pay a whole bunch of money to get their medicine, they're pissed off about it. And so, like I said, this is extreme. This is not in any way, shape, or form a perfect analogy, but it sort of starts to get at the idea of why a collector would be pissed that they really want this card and they know it's out there, but they feel that somebody else is holding it hostage and that they're not willing to make a fair deal with them, but instead they want to gouge them. They want to gouge. And so, there is a solution to this from the market point of view, which is sending in the item to auction and let it run in a free market environment. Obviously, there can't be any shilling going on with that item. But nonetheless, there is an option here, right, which is send it, but it's not going to get sent to auction because there's a belief by the person who owns the card that they're going to be able to get way more money out of it from making a private deal. All right?
Yeah. Go.
Yeah.
Are you still going? Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah, I was going to say to Drake and people who are in this situation, the person on the other end doesn't actually want the card, right? So they will sell it. They will sell it 100%. Maybe not today. Maybe they'll be all tough and say, oh, I'm just going to hold this thing. I don't care. I'm not until I get the price I want. Eventually they will sell. It may be years down the road, but they will sell the card. And oftentimes they'll get frustrated and just send it to Golden or, send it to auction. They just get so annoyed with it. But it will get sent to auction. And honestly, like a lot of times when this happens to us, Chris, and when it happens to you, I come in and be like, dude, just hold your ground. And you do the same to me, just hold your ground. I know you're upset about this. You're emotional about it right now. You want the card. Don't overpay. That person knows you're going to pay the most. Eventually it's going to get to you. Just relax, just wait. So that's, that person that's trying to get top dollar for it, eventually they're going to come back to you because they know you're so frantic about it. And then you're going to be in the position of power. So just hang in there.
Yep. It's great advice. And so when Drake had made some story posts a little while back, there was a handful of people who maybe didn't like them and felt, this is the market. So just Drake, you got to be patient or whatever. But I think that the collector is entitled to complain a bit because it is a shitty situation. And I think the dealer would be wise to just take it. Just be like, yeah, I know this is a tough position for the collector to be in, but this is how the market works.
Right.
So, yeah, because at the end of the day, as the dealer, I'm trying to make money. And that's, that's kind of, it's not the most honorable of things to have a spotlight on. Is trying to squeeze every dollar out of it. Right. So I think the dealer is well served to just say, yeah, I understand. And I'm sorry that it is this way, but I believe in my position here. So this is how I'm going to do it. But I understand why you're upset, especially dealers who are also collectors. Dealers who are also collectors should get it better than anybody. So I thought Drake was well within his rights to speak out about it, to voice a concern about it. I think it was fine. You don't have to agree with him, but I think the customer has a right to be upset if their medicine's too expensive.
Right.
All right. All right. Next up here from Cage says, this is the business he has chosen. He can't complain. Fair enough. Complaining never really serves anybody very well. Probably not. So.
At least that's what Chris keeps telling me.
All right. Publius 13 says, do you think it would be fun if auction listings had a public comments section? So participants or observers could chime in with commentary such as, this looks shilled, or way too much, or hella low, or sheesh. Seems like a no-brainer.
Oh man, the comment section is where the bottom dwellers of every thing exist. Have you been to the comment section of YouTube and stuff like that?
Oh, I avoid it.
Yeah, this might be worse. eBay comment section, like every comment would be like, "This is shill." It would just be complete nonsense.
Yep. I'm gonna have to say terrible idea, Publius.
Yeah, that's a pass for me.
But I respect the effort and the creativity. All right. Vinny Slaverino says, always enjoy the show. When watching a card on eBay, does the number of other watchers impact your desire for the card? People say that you should buy what you like, but does how much other people like the card affect how much you like the card? I feel like it is hard to unbundle those two things. They seem intertwined. Thanks, Vinny.
I feel like we answered this one a couple weeks ago. We were talking about how you could like sort by the number of watchers on eBay, and it always made for like an interesting way to see what popular cards were at auction on eBay, and it usually kind of like filtered out stuff and did give you like the more interesting rare gold prism type cards that you could see. So I feel like it's a really good indicator of how popular that card is, how valuable it's going to be, and whether you should consider having it in your collection for whatever player you're collecting.
Yep, agreed. I'll just add this as a caveat. If I list a card on my eBay store, the most amount of watchers I think I've ever got is like 20 or 25. If, one of the big consignment entities on eBay, like a Probstein, were to list that same card, it could get hundreds of watchers just by virtue of it being on Probstein. So I would just bear that. I would say yes. I completely agree here with both you guys that knowing how much other people desire a card impacts how much I desire it. But I would say that I'm also careful to filter out what is an actual proxy for the relative amount that people desire a card. And understanding that watchers is largely a byproduct of the person selling, of the number of followers who are following the account that sell the card.
True.
All right. Aesthetic Card says, does acquiring a grail quickly actually decrease its value in your eyes as a collector?
Quickly, as in like you've been searching for it for a week and you've already found it?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then it's probably not a grail then. Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's... I think, sometimes you can just get lucky, right? But most of the time, yeah, a grail shouldn't be easy to find.
Right.
All right. Enjoy Cards IG says, Josh, would you tell us about your epic trade with Naz Nubs?
I was hoping that the week off would allow me to skip out on this one. No, I was going to bring it up if we didn't get a question. Yeah, so I've spent a ton of money on LeBron cards in the last 6 months, like a lot. Like I bought an RPA, I bought that Bowman Gold PSA 10, which was not cheap. I bought 4 or 5 other exquisites, not cheap stuff. And I just was like, I probably should. And I never really like went and really actively tried to sell a bunch of stuff to pay for that. I just sort of like, I'll figure it out later. And later came and I had to sell some stuff, and I kind of just made the decision to like sell the majority of my really high-end Penny Hardaway stuff. Like the 90s basketball stuff like hasn't gone down in value. Like Penny's index is up 10% last year, and LeBron's is down like 50. And I just thought, well, I'd rather just like make money on these pennies. They're still doing pretty good. I would lose money on a lot of these LeBrons. Let me sell some of these pennies, and it just kind of snowballed. And I sold a bunch of stuff. So I ended up trading him the PMG Green, which is was weird, very strange for me. That's a card I've had for a long time, and one that I've sort of like built some of my persona around with Penny. So I kept all my like binder stuff. I still have a few like nice pieces, but I did like move out of like all the really expensive stuff. And Naz has like been going hard after all that stuff, and so it's like a pretty easy trade, to be honest.
Nice. But you've still retained a decent number of Penny Hardaway cards in the binders.
Oh yeah, like cards that are like 1,000 and under, it's that sort of range. I still have like hundreds of them. I have like a high voltage 500. I have like a few autograph ones. I have like a few platinum medallions still. Like all the legacy cards, I have all those. Like I have stuff like that still. I have like a Noise Boys, like cut above, that kind of level of cards. I've got all those.
Yeah, I mean those are amazing cards. Do you still consider yourself to be a Penny Hardaway collector?
Like not really. I mean, yes, but like, you know how you and I are. Like, you're not a collector unless you really have like the best of the best, and like, or at least as long as we've been in the game, like that's just sort of who we are as individuals. It's not saying that that's the same for everybody, but where we're at, I just kind of felt like I don't really want to spread out across. I'm getting close, I feel, to having like one of the better LeBron PCs, and I'm just really focused on it right now. So I didn't want any more distractions on having to spend 5 figures on a Penny Hardaway card if it came up.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I was thinking about I've never shed a player PC before, and I'm not sure how it would feel to have had an emotional investment in collecting cards for a particular player, and then to no longer be seeking out that player's cards. I wonder, does it feel to you like, hey, the time came, like I'd been collecting Penny Hardaway for 7.5 years, I had a good run, or does it feel more like bittersweet? Like I wish I still was collecting Penny, but everybody has limited resources, and I want to allocate them to somewhere else.
Probably the second one, and also like I feel like I've now properly adjusted my total value that I have in all cards to where Penny like should be. Like I've probably now got like, I don't know, like 20 grand in Penny Hardaway cards, and a vast majority of my collection is now in LeBron. It just kind of makes more sense.
I get it. Totally get it. All right. Moving on. Coastal Collection 29 says, please discuss coping with not being able to buy cards after you pick up a Grail. I'm now in research and enjoyment mode.
Yes, I love the research, and I feel like I've gone through that period in the last couple of months. Like I spent, like I said, I spent so much on LeBron. I need to get some cash back and kind of chill out and like figure out what I'm going to get next. So like it's a fun time, I think, to try to like reset and figure out what you don't always have to be buying something every week. I mean, it helps and it's fun having mail days, and you can have like cheaper mail days to kind of fill the gap, but you don't always have to be having these like huge cards coming in, especially when you've like overspent in the last few months. Like it's okay to like research and spend that time. There's other ways to enjoy the hobby.
Yeah. Yep. Research and enjoyment mode is it's an important part of the collecting evolution. When you're in that mode, like you start seeing things a little differently sometimes. You start getting into more nuances, or just seeing ways to further advance and develop your collection. So it's a good mode to be in. I think it's also really dangerous to continue with the drug metaphor. It's dangerous to overdose on grits. I would be scared to do that to myself, to pick up like my 3 best cards in my collection,
right?
To just get them all in the same month. And then, now I'm just like, I can never replenish this, So I'm thinking about the 3 best cards that I would say me and Christina have. And I think that one was obtained in 2018, one was obtained in 2019, and one was obtained in 2022. So that's better, I think, than to risk overdosing on too many good cards at once. And then, you know, let the thrill exist. Let it be thrilling. Let acquiring a grail be followed by valleys of time that are not, you know, the grail is the mountain, and then let there be a long valley where you go into research mode and you enjoy the collection, and like that kind of is a way to allow myself to enjoy getting grails more.
Yeah. One of the issues I've always had with Instagram and social media is like when I post something cool or I felt like I spent a lot of time and effort and money to get something, you know, it kind of goes by quickly. Like you get it, you post it, you know, you have the excitement of it. Everyone, you know, your friends are excited for you. And then you usually get comments like, oh, now you need this, or now you need the next one. And it's like, so you sort of like internalize like, oh, now I have to like figure out how to get this next piece of the puzzle. And then it usually sort of like speeds you up and kind of not forces you, but like gets you sort of moving towards getting another one much sooner than you would have thought. So that's kind of, you know, it's like, man, I got this. This was like my 6-month kind of deal. And now it's like, I need to chill for a few months before I get the next one. But the pressure of like social media kind of makes that hard.
Yep. It sure does. Okay. This comes from Mad City Collector. He says, what do you think about alternative auction formats, such as the Dutch auction, in order to mitigate shilling? And so a Dutch auction, in a nutshell, is where the auction for the item starts at a very high price, and then in timed intervals, the price lowers and lowers and lowers until somebody decides it's low enough, I'll take it there.
Mm.
Okay, so here's this question. What do we think about using alternative formats to mitigate shilling? And I already thought of a metaphor for my answer to this question.
Drugs.
Not drugs. This is a metaphor for the NRA member listeners.
Drugs and guns. All right. Let's go, America.
I don't know why I came up with this one, but maybe it's from being in Texas for a year and a half. All right. So there is a saying. I was researching this slogan a little bit. I guess it goes back to the 1910s. It says, guns don't kill people, people kill people. All right, this is an NRA slogan, okay? And then I applied it to this and I say, does the auction format commit the fraud, or is it the people committing the fraud? All right? And so I'm thinking to myself here, would changing the auction format stop people from fraudulently creating comps? Maybe, but maybe it would, you know? I don't want to rule it out, but I'm skeptical. I think that when you have people out there who want to deceive and commit fraud, there will be some ways to deter them to some extent. Like eBay implementing the policy where you must pay, like your payment method will automatically get charged as soon as you win an auction or something. That's going to deter some people for sure. You know, just like if I have no lock on my door versus having even a small lock on my door, that's going to deter some people. But I think at the end of the day, there are people who are determined to commit the fraud, and they're going to commit it, and they're going to find ways to commit it most of the time, especially in like with the Dutch auction. I mean, I would think that format would still allow fraud. You know, you buy it on a higher price. But that's like I guess the question is more about shilling, like incremental shill bidding, but not winning. But if the form of shilling is like, I'm just going to win the auction and not pay, then, you know, you can still do that in a Dutch auction. Easy. What do you think about this?
Well, the outcome of the shilling is more what we're trying to stop. Like the actual bidding part is, you know, that's the means to the end of like creating this fake comp. So how do we stop the fake comps, and how do we stop people, you know, winning auctions and not paying for them, basically? We need like the dog one, like the security. You know how like the dog is like deters like 98% of security, like all these fancy security systems. All you really need is a dog. We need that. Like, it's not the silver bullet 100%, but we need that one solution that cuts out like a vast majority, and then we just won't. You know, it'll be quickly improved with one small thing. I feel like the eBay having to like put in your credit card and like commit that like once this hits, it's going to automatically be deducted is like the dog. That one seems to work. It's pretty clever on the best offer one, and I'm assuming they can do it on auctions. It's like, yeah, if you win this auction at this bid, it will be auto deducted from your account. You know, same. It should. I don't see how it's that much harder to do it for auction. It seems like it's the same concept.
Totally agree.
I put in a mega bid 2 days ago, and it prompted me with that.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's being rolled out with certain users.
What does that mean for me?
It might not be you. I think it's the seller.
Oh, okay.
So then we have the issue of, to your point of like, you know, the person's going to always find a way to commit the crime no matter what we do. The next one is like, oh, I'll just have my buddy bid on it. He'll just pay him and I'll just pay him right back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or I don't think it would stop you if something like that happened, like with your buddy, and then you cancel the sale as the seller. Like, so there is a way to still make a fraudulent thing happen there.
Yep, and I'll figure it out too.
Yeah.
Now, I do like the auto pay thing, and I am in favor of it generally. But even being in favor of it, it's worth acknowledging some of the problems that come with it. And one of the problems that comes with it is that it's not customary in this industry to need to pay immediately. It's more customary in this industry to treat an invoice like B2B sectors treat invoices, which is you have a time period to pay it. And there's been instances of myself as an eBay seller where somebody really wants to buy a card, but they don't get paid until Friday. And I'll sell it to them, and then they pay me on Friday. And it's done. And it worked. Now, with that said, people also use that. They exploit and they take advantage of that system a great deal. And that's why it's a problem. That's why I'm in favor of auto pay. But we definitely will lose something that's been customary. We will lose the invoice system, which will take some getting used to. And it's going to impact people at the margin who maybe don't have a big card budget. You know, it's going to impact the people who have to wait until they get their Friday paycheck to be able to buy a $50 card or a $100 card, but they want to lock into it and buy it now. And maybe the card they're worried it's going to go up in value or something. So look, it's a fringe scenario, I guess. I think most people are not really worried about it, but that part of the buying experience suffers. So there's just that to consider. There is a segment of buyers who are good faith buyers who sometimes do need a few days to pay. And there's also, you know, the segments of buying where it's like you send an offer out to buy a card, and the person who sent the offer, you know, they don't want to have to sell other cards to have the potential money to buy a card if their offer is not going to be accepted. So like, let's say I'm a guy who has $1,000. I'm limiting my outlay in sports cards to $1,000, and I own $1,000 in cards. And there's a $100 card on eBay that I want, but it's listed for $200 OBO. So I send the offer for $100. All right. Now, I don't have the $100 in cash to pay the person, but I could easily sell a card to get it. Okay. So if I send that offer for $100 and the person buys the card and the seller accepts it, then I'll just say, hey, look, give me 48 hours. I need to sell a card or two. I'll be able to pay you. And I pay and it's done. Whereas what happens if I send the $100 offer and they don't accept it and they say, no, I'm firm at 200. Well, now, you know, I don't want to have to liquidate 10% of my collection to be able to afford this $100 card if the seller's not going to accept it. So there's that transient moment in collecting for people, especially people who are on budgets or who have, you know, a limited collection. There's that moment there where it's like, I don't want to have to sell cards when the offer might be refused. But if the offer is accepted, I will sell the cards so I can pay for the offer. So look, I know most people are not concerned with that scenario. That's fine, but there are people who do exist on that budget and who do operate that way. It's just worth acknowledging them. I still prefer auto pay, but there are people who have that situation. All right. Jam Collectibles says, please discuss the market correction on frequently sold high-end modern cards.
From 2021?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what modern means here because we define modern as
86 to 84. It's Jordan years.
Yeah, we define modern as 1984 to 2008, and then we define ultra modern as 2009 to present. So I'm not really sure what exactly is meant by modern. I think this means like your Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert RPAs.
Oh, okay. That stuff's been going down, for like the last year or so. And it's all that stuff always is like coming out hot and going down. Like this is like a pretty common like trend that we see over and over and over and over. Every new crop of quarterbacks and young basketball talent, like they start off hot and then the prices go down.
Yep.
What does it say? Does the question say high pop or just says modern?
Frequently sold high-end modern.
Yeah, I mean, just that term alone, like being frequently sold, tells you that the prices are going to go down.
Agreed. All right. And then in the chat, there's some discussion about, like Chris Cards KC says, well, what about like the Tom Brady championship ticket, rookie, LeBron exquisite RPA selling every month?
Yeah, I mean, when those sell every month, that the supply is high. Like the price is just going to keep going down because every time that it sells, either someone that like has been after that card gets it, and now they're out of the market for the next one, or like people that are owning a lot of those, like eventually run out of money to support those prices. So like, the more that they sell, they're just going to keep going down.
Yep. Agreed. All right. MD Cup Guy 8 says, with the market being down as a whole, what has the traffic been like on the Card Ladder app? Is that down, up, or about the same? I'm just curious.
You don't disclose those numbers.
Yes, that's what I was going to say here is that there is some level of like public stats that are kept by what analytics websites that can show like traffic to a domain name over a limited period of time. You can see it for free. I haven't looked at those recently, so I'm not sure what they show. I in addition to what Christina said, I would say that Card Ladder is a business that's 3.5 years old, and it's growing still. So like that's a confounding factor here. Is that the growth of the Card Ladder business is going to run opposite of any potential downturn in usage of pricing apps. So I would bear that in mind. But I came up with some other numbers that we could look at instead. And one number that's interesting that's public is gem rates tracking of PSA graded cards. Because I think that's maybe a decent proxy for how many people are in the hobby, is how many people are grading their cards. Obviously, there could be some bias in that. There is bias in that number as well, but let me just give you the numbers. So according to GemRate, in 2021, PSA graded 7.7 million cards, which is a lot of cards. In 2022, PSA graded 11.2 million cards. Okay, so from 7.7 to 11.2. And GemRate says, as we've got 15 days left in December, GemRate says that PSA is on pace to grade 14.9 million cards in 2023. So there's some numbers for you. I don't know if that really speaks to what the question asker is trying to get at, but has PSA probably gained market share since 2021? Possibly so. But I think that's also a decent proxy for number of active hobby participants as how many cards are being graded.
Yep.
And they are going up. Where do you go from 14.9 million in a year?
The Turtles are like this one.
Over 1 million cards a month is just, that's a lot. All right. Iowa Dave has a nice question about eBay that he sent in. From Iowa Dave Sports Cards, he says, lately I've been noticing a trend on eBay where sellers send almost embarrassingly small offers to their items that are on my watch list. For example, the item might cost $65, and they send everyone who is watching it an offer of $63.75. Do you think that they actually think that's enough to entice a buyer? Or could it be that this is their way of getting our attention, of saying, hey, remember that this item is on your watch list, and I don't want you to forget about it? And then Bruin Cards had a follow-up that said, I actually got an offer the other day for 1 penny off.
Oh my gosh.
The seller sent an offer for 1 penny off. And Leather Helmet Cards comes in and says, hey, look, as a seller, I sometimes do this just to start a conversation around price. So for me, it's extending an olive branch of this price isn't firm and I'm willing to negotiate.
So This happened to me a couple weeks ago. Not even, it was probably last week. And I just thought it was such a ridiculous thing that I literally went and unwatched the card. I'm like, you're not going to be serious, then I'm not going to be serious. And I stopped watching that card.
Yeah. Well, eBay gives you that ability when you open the app, hey, do you want to just send this offer out to a bunch of people, and it'll at least get it in their faces right away. So it's just a convenient thing for the seller to just push one button.
Have you ever made a deal as a result of a seller sending you an offer on eBay?
No, but I have as a seller where it worked. Someone countered a more reasonable counter, and then we go back and forth.
That's what I've heard from people. So I've heard sellers say positive things about it. That it works.
It's a nice feature as a seller.
As a buyer, I am immediately turned off when somebody sends an offer.
Me too.
I'm I don't want this card anymore. Unless it's I don't know. It's just a big turnoff to the card. Let me not exaggerate here, but it's a big turnoff for the card.
Because eBay says it in terms of 5% off, it's some sort of Christmas gift or something, where we care about some Amazon thing where it's 5% off. Wow, what a deal. It's no, this is a card with a value, and you're even with 5% off, you're still way far away from what it should be.
Yeah. As soon as I see that, I just think, oh, so you were trying to rip me off. Yeah,
exactly.
And now you're willing to come down a bit. All right.
Now you're trying to less rip me off.
Which is not totally fair. It's the seller's prerogative to try and nobody's going to know what the market is. It's the seller's prerogative to try and gauge, adapt from there. All right. Naz Nubbs says, let's discuss all the fakes that we need to throw into the trash.
Well, we know what he's doing this week.
Yeah, he just had a video tonight. I didn't watch it, but I did see his advertisement for it.
Yeah, he cut a few of them in half.
Yeah, where he said he was going to. Here we go. He posted a little video of the outcome where he cut some of these cards in half and he broke some of the other ones out of their slabs.
A few of them PSA requested for him to send to them so they could use them to like teach other people at the company like how to check for them and stuff, or how to spot the fakes.
Got it. Okay.
Plus, if you have a fake card in a PSA slab, do not destroy it. Send it to PSA and they'll pay you for it. That's the whole point of the guarantee.
That is a very good point.
He did not destroy cards that were in PSA slabs because that would be destroying money.
Exactly. It's an excellent point. And I want to make another point here. This is also where we say that we work for a company that is owned by the same company that owns PSA. I love, like Josh just touched on the guarantee. I love the guarantee. I think it's such a differentiating factor for a third-party authenticator in any space, not just cards. And then, but the guarantee transforms the opinion that a third-party authenticator gives to a promise. That's how I would phrase that. And if there isn't a guarantee, then it's just an opinion. And when it's just an opinion, opinions can be wrong. Even the most seasoned grader can make a mistake. And that's what I want to bring up with this. So there was a long-running instance, a belief in the hobby that because Luka Doncic's signature is feminine in some people's eyes, that his mother must be signing his cards. But then Dude Perfect had Luka over to their house, and they had Luka sign his name on one of their walls, and lo and behold, Luka signed the Lulu autograph that had long been attributed to his mother. So even with the best of intentions, trying to spot fraud and athletes not signing their autographs, which in some cases seems like it has been successfully detected. It was successfully detected in the case of Dak Prescott using a pen, an auto pen. It definitely happens. But sometimes the experts in the hobby are wrong. And I'm sure those experts would be the first people to tell you that. Sometimes the experts are wrong. So that's why even with alleged counterfeit cards, some are clearly counterfeit, right? Some cards you can tell somebody went to their basement and they turned on their laser printer and they printed this card in their basement and it's clearly fake. Sometimes there are counterfeit cards that are pretty close, but there's one or two really obvious slam dunk tells. And sometimes a card is called out as counterfeit or an autograph is called out as fake, and it's not. And that can happen too. So that's why there was a slight concern level of cutting up cards because what if one of them isn't counterfeit? What if? So that's a contrarian take. On the whole, I'm very glad to see counterfeit cards destroyed. Counterfeits, fakes, aftermarket stamps. This world would be a much better place if we incinerated them and spread the ashes right next to where all those 1952 Topps mantles are at the bottom of the ocean.
If we knew they were fake, of course.
If we knew. But man, it would be a shame if an authentic pack-pulled copy was destroyed because an expert said it was fake. So, all right. Anything else on this topic?
No.
This comes from Stacking Slabs. This is going to hit a sore spot with Josh right now as he's watching the Suns game.
No, I'm not. I can't fucking take it anymore with the stupid team.
You turned it off? It's how there's still 5 minutes? Oh, but they're down by 12.
They were up 10 late in the third, and then
Yeah, it's terrible.
they suck, dude. You can't win a championship when you're a 500 team and 30 games in or whatever. They suck.
Yeah. That's fair. All right, but anyway, here's from Staggy Slabs. He says, can we talk about the joys of meeting a new sector of the hobby when we start a new player PC? When I started posting my Halliburton collection, Brett has recently become a collector of Tyrese Halliburton, it became a magnet to meet other fellow Halliburton collectors. These are collectors that I never met. I didn't even know they existed. And I'm brand new to collecting an active NBA player, but it's been a blast. Every night you've got games to analyze, you've got content to share, you've got cards to talk about with collectors who share in the same passion from all over the world. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but basketball cards. Bro.
Nice.
Do you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, I mean was that a question or was it more of just like a comment? I agree. That's part of that's like why you love basketball so much right now. Or cards is like and I'm still collecting an active player and he's like 1,000,000 years old, but it is fun to just like watch your guy out there and having the community aspect of it's fun.
Completely agree. Well said, Brett. The one thing I worry about actually is that it's so fun, and then I wonder what happens when my active players retire. Not in the case of your player. You're collecting a player who's just as relevant, if not more relevant, in retirement, and that player will always be special and meaningful.
Yeah,
He's one of the absolute GOATs. But what about a player who's not an absolute GOAT, but who's still super fun to watch and collect? Will the passion still be there when there's not the games to follow? And, the prospect of building a legacy is gone. And all that there is to sustain the player is the legacy and the memory of them and the nostalgia for collecting them during that time, the nostalgia for the cards of that time. Will that be enough? I worry about that sometimes as a collector of 3 active players.
Yeah. The other downside of the active player, for me at least, is like only one team wins every year. And so inevitably there's going to be a time in the season when people are down on your player because they didn't win the championship. That's just like how the culture of sports works. It's like either you're the champion or you like it was a failure of a season. So it's hard. Like the Pacers probably aren't going to win the championship. So like at some point you're going to have to deal with like Halliburton getting knocked out or, someone outplaying him or whatever the case is. And it's like, it's always frustrating. See, I always have to like try to keep it in perspective of, unless you're rooting for the champion every single season, you're going to have like these disappointing moments, and that's sports, like it's tough.
Yeah. And then I'll add another thing that's not fun about collecting an active player that like sort of relates to that is there will be a segment of people who are collecting that player or prospecting on that player who will then sell that player's cards and then they either, it's awkward, but that the way that the market works for collecting an active player, at least in the short and the medium term, is to sell the most savvy financial move is to sell the cards of that player at the time when you want to be collecting them the most because they're doing the best.
Yeah.
And so that's like bittersweet. It's awkward that, the time when everybody is most impressed and coveting the cards of your player, and that's when you would most want to have those cards, is probably the smartest time in the short or the medium term, at least, for you to sell those cards.
Yeah.
So it's like That's an awkward part of it. It's not really if you're like a collector thinking like, hey, I just want to acquire a great collection, keep pushing. The market is not super well tailored to that. That's an approach that's more better tailored to collecting vintage or collecting retired players, where you're just gonna, hopefully see a slow, gradual level of appreciation that doesn't wax and wane, ebb and flow. And then, a corollary or a consequence of that truth of the market is that like people turn on your player once they exit that player's cards.
Yep.
And they become, not only do they, it's not like they just become indifferent. Like, oh, I used to collect this player and then I sold the player at the peak and, now I'm not collecting them. No, they actively root against the player because they don't want to see that player's cards ever go up in value, especially more than the point that they sold at. So that's something to contend with as a true collector of an active player as well.
Yeah, not a very popular opinion. I know you like collecting active players. It's a fun thing. I don't really like it. Like I already get so, like I watch sports like Christina does. I just get so emotional about it. It's just like it's not the way you should do it. It should be more analytical and it should be more, but that's not how I watch sports. And when I mix cards with it, it just becomes like a dangerous, like not good way to do it. Like if I start collecting, what if I just like started collecting Justin Herbert? Can you imagine the pain I would be going through this season? Not only is the guy I'm rooting for losing, my cards are tanking. It's just like a double negative, It's just like, oh my gosh. I would rather just like bet on that player. If I actually believe in them analytically, I'd rather just like put a futures bet on them at the beginning of the season, and I can enjoy the ride with the gamble on that, and then find a way to like enjoy sports cards separate from the gamble of sports. That's like the other side of it. I totally get your side of it too. But I just like put that side of it out.
Yeah. So Brett, hopefully we have extinguished all of your enthusiasm.
we did too much on the negative side. You should give him one more boost to end with.
Collecting an active player is so much fun that it's largely distracted me from collecting Michael Jordan cards, which is an incredible amount of fun. So that's how intoxicating it could be.
Saves you all your money.
Yeah. But I also make sure I'll never have a point in time where Michael Jordan is not a substantial cornerstone, foundational piece, large percentage of my collection.
Right.
Just to guard against being overly weighted in active players where all sorts of different wild and crazy things can happen. So
what if you were collecting Ja Morant at the end of you started the end of last year, you were all excited, and it's like, oh my god, he's suspended, they got knocked out of the playoffs. It's like, I don't know, I can't, like, I'd love to pick a player where none of that would ever happen, but I just feel like you're always going to have some of that exposure for at least some period of time. Every player is going to be criticized during their career, no matter what. It's impossible to avoid it.
I'll add this too, since we're just kind of riffing on this topic. And
Charizard can't tear his Achilles. I'll add that.
Charizard can't tear his Achilles, but if you flip the shirt over, the backside says Charizard can't win a championship either.
Yeah.
If I don't know how it plays out for a collector, but if you're a dealer or a flipper, there are so many easy ways to get an edge on the market if you're willing to invest the passion and the time to closely follow the sport and to follow mainstream narratives, and then to calibrate against all of that by studying the readily available, for free, catch-all advanced analytics that every sport has, but in particular that basketball and football have. And if one did follow those, you still can't really hedge against the freak accident. You can't hedge against a player having a season-ending injury or getting 3 concussions like Tua did last year. You can't hedge against that. But you can get a huge edge on the masses of people who develop their sports opinions by just having ESPN on in the background for a few hours in the afternoon or in the morning. In football, the metric to understand and to look at, and that can be a jumping off point for discussions, is QBR. And this is why I don't collect a quarterback, but this is why I post QBR to my story every week. This is a free – I'm going out of my way to collect this stat and to give it to anybody who wants to look at my story. This is a free ranking of an EPA-based metric that has predicted 6 out of the last 7 MVPs. And then the 2 players who have dominated QBR for most of the season, up until a week or 2 ago, the media wasn't talking about them at all.
Now they're MVP odds favorites.
And now they're the MVP favorites, Dak Prescott and Big Cock Brock. So in football, I've only been doing this for 2 years, but it was the same thing with Tua last year. But then Tua got hurt. All right.
You could just bet on. You could 6 weeks ago. You could have just bet a whole bunch of money on Brock Purdy MVP, and you could cash him out right now. You would have 5 extra money.
You could do that too. You could totally do that too. And then in basketball, it's a little bit hard. QBR is such a brilliant catch-all statistic. When you really dive into it and understand what composes it, how it works, basketball doesn't have anything quite that good. But basketball has multiple catch-alls you can sort of look at in totality and get a summary. And right now, there's 2 players who are 2 of the top 3 in all of the catch-alls, whether it's player efficiency rating, box plus minus, win shares per 48, estimated plus minus, ESPN's real plus minus. And these players are not being talked about right now, given the incredible performances that they're having. And the first is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has a PER right now that's 31.2. That's for a guard, for a shooting guard, to have a PER like that, you're talking prime Dwayne Wade for a season or 2 where he may have been that high. You're talking about prime Michael Jordan. We're talking about a PER of 31. SGA has played at that level for almost 2 months. Will he continue playing at that level? I don't know. But bringing in Chet Holmgren to that team has definitely helped his metrics. And he's 3 elite games away from being the MVP front runner analytically. And nobody's talking about it. He's like the Brock Purdy of the NBA right now. And then the other guy is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has a player efficiency rating of 34.
I know, dude, but he was last year, and then he flamed out in the playoffs like he always does, and you get crushed on it.
Yes.
So
that's the thing with Embiid for sure. Is
yeah,
you have to measure, and look, and on that topic with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander too. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has never even made the playoffs as the best player on the team, let alone even won a playoff game.
The other thing about Embiid is the media is going to be pretty scared to talk about him because they know that they did Jokic wrong last year and gave Embiid a fake MVP. So they're not going to talk about him because they don't want to bring that up.
Yeah.
So even if he deserves it this year, he won't get it because they know he didn't deserve it last year.
Well, what's so fun, I hope that Embiid ends in first place in every advanced metric just so that the voters have to realize that they can't use that argument because they threw it away last year. It's the perfect punishment for the voters. You could have just waited a year and actually gave it to him when he deserved it.
Exactly.
But you didn't.
This trick you found works really well for quarterbacks and MVP because when the season starts, the MVP pool is the second the season starts, it's automatically diminished down to 20 players before it even begins.
Right.
Only 20 players can even possibly win the MVP. And you could just wait till week 6 to figure out who's trending towards having the top QBR bet on them if they're not. It's just like you're probably gonna win. NBA is a little harder because they don't have as much control over it as the quarterback does for their team. 1 out of 5. It is less players, 1 out of 5 compared, but the quarterback just has like so much sway over like the team's final record and all the stats and everything. But I get your point. I just like the Embiid. It's like, yeah, this is great. Embiid's number 2. He's won the MVP, and then his card prices went down because he flamed out in the playoffs again. And it's Embiid, and nobody cares.
Yep, very true. So for the NBA this season, the metric that I'm posting to my story is box plus minus. It's one of 3 that Basketball Reference offers as catch-alls, and I think it's good, but all 3 are useful. And box plus minus, the winner of box plus minus has won MVP 8 of the last 10 seasons.
Right.
So you've got an 8 of 10 prediction success rate for BPM, and for QBR 6 of 7.
What's the PER out of 10?
PER is I want to say 9 out of 10.
Okay, so that one is like potentially the most accurate for that.
I think, yeah. I would have to double check that. I'm pretty sure PER is 9 out of 10. And I like PER. The reason why I think PER is probably the best proxy for what impresses writers, because PER is just consolidating a player's production into one number.
Right.
Whereas BPM is trying to gauge how many points does this player add relative to a replacement player. And win shares per 48 is trying to say how many wins can we allocate from a team's body of wins? How many should we allocate to each of the players on the team? But PER is just saying, let's take on a per minute basis points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, field goal percentage. Let's just cram all that stuff in and spit out one number that compares everybody and relate. And it's all related back to a league average number. I think that's probably the best proxy for what voters are looking at. But PER has fallen out of favor with writers and basketball talkers, ball knowers, nerds. ESPN removed it from its player profile pages when it had been there for years. But so PER kind of has a bad rep right now, but I think PER is still probably the best proxy for MVP.
You should explain BPM to the Ringer because they seem to think that it's on-off.
Yeah, I know. I've tweeted Ryan Russillo once.
Like, dude, BPM is not plus minus on-off. It's different.
Yes, it's very different. Very, very.
What happened to Raptor? You used to like Raptor. You used to like the 538 ones.
I loved Raptor. They discontinued it.
They don't post it anymore?
It's done. Yeah, because ABC, I think, had acquired it along with 538, and then they fired people over the summer, and it's done.
Dude, and also, you know this, but like getting to the PER and QBR rankings is like going into a 1990s website trying to like find it. I literally have to Google it every week, find a direct link to it, and realize that it's like a page from the early 2000s that ESPN still hasn't updated the visual like layout of it. Like, what the fuck? Oh, do you guys even care about these stats? Like, they literally are the 99% more accurate than Stephen A. Smith every year, yet we continue to like lean into whatever Stephen A. thinks that week. And those guys, dude, I told you, I freaking called this. I said, dude, now that Dak has moved up in the top 2 in PER and then he wins this one game, I fucking guarantee you, Monday morning, you and I are going to text each other, and all these guys are going to be like, Dak's the current MVP. That's fucking like clockwork. And they didn't say a word about it the 6 weeks leading up. And then all of a sudden, because he has that one game, their eye test, the guys go nuts over that.
Yeah, because they finally watched him. He was finally.
And then I woke up in
national
Bill Simmons' podcast, and the name of the podcast was like Dak MVP favorites. Like, I knew it. You bums.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff hidden in these numbers, but you have to really like it and care about it, or else it's just forced. I don't think it's going to work. But even like Halliburton was a guy last year who, like, if you average his rank in Basketball References 3 catch-alls, he was 12th, and now this year he's like 5th. You know, like, that's not unusual to see players who, like, young player in the early 20s is like in the top 15 or so, and then all of a sudden, whoa, where'd this guy come from? It's not crazy for that to happen.
You know what it's really good for? You just reminded me of it. That those advanced stats are really good for like a big game is coming up, like a big primetime game. And I'm thinking about like the Niners versus Cowboys and the Niners versus the Eagles. And then like the Pacers going into that tournament. Like we know we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we know what players are going to perform well in that game because we have all this body of work of like people, all the like, talking heads are like, oh, freaking the Eagles, Hurts is going to dominate Purdy. Like this is going to be the time when he comes back to earth. And it's like, well, all the stats show that Purdy's probably going to play pretty well. The Eagles have the 32nd ranked pass defense. He's coming in as the number 1 ranked PER. Like he's probably going to have a pretty good game. Like he's not going to, we're not going to see him break these trends that we have in the stats. And then it proved out the stats sort of like simulated themselves into the game. And you're like, that's exactly the stats we predicted to have. And that Halliburton thing was the same thing. Like we saw his stats rising. We saw what was going to happen. And then when he got to that Final Four, people were like, oh my God, we finally get to see him on this stage. Like, look how great he's playing. And we're like, he's playing the same as he's played the whole season. Like we could have just bet on these things and been like, we know what's going to happen. We know he's going to break the headlines because we know what stats he had coming into this game. So like going into the playoffs or going into like big discussions you're having with buddies, you can use these to like say, hey, I actually think this guy's going to play well tonight because he's the other one is Anthony Edwards. People are like loving all the Anthony Edwards stuff. He comes into a big primetime game and he shoots 3 of 19. You're like, well, I kind of saw that coming actually.
Such a great point. And like there's other clues too. Like remember when we were watching Team USA this summer and we were like, they're so much better when Halliburton's on the floor.
Yep.
Like why? Like Kerr just has this guy coming off the bench, and this guy's like running laps around everybody when he's out there. Like so the analytics can be like something that causes you to investigate further and to look like say, okay, the analytics are saying this guy's great. Let me watch. Let me see. Let me put the eye test with it, if you will. I think the concept of the eye test is so stupid. Like, I say that, but like the eye test is everything. The eye test is why we love watching sports. We can't take the eye test away from the sports fan. We just can't do it. I mean, the eye test is the essence of casual sports fandom. And I love it as a casual sports fan in many regards myself. But the eye test, if we're actually trying to perform a serious analysis, the eye test is riddled with the biases that all of the teachings and the learnings that we experience throughout our life are trying to remove from the way that we process the world. So the eye test when we're applying the eye test, we're not looking at every other performer. We're watching a few percentage points of the total available body of work of active athletes. And our eye test is going to be biased by what we think a great athlete is supposed to look like on the field. And it's going to cause us to employ stereotypes and overlook performances that don't fit the mold, the predetermined mold of what we think it's supposed to look like. But it still can be just as effective or more effective if it looks differently. So when we have a remedy to the eye test, I just get so fed up with the eye test crap.
The problem with it too is like, we can't watch all these games, and we know for damn sure these like people on TV do not watch a majority of these games. Like one, they just don't have time, and two, like they probably don't have interest in trying to watch all these games. They're entertainers. Their job is to get on TV and be entertaining, not necessarily be accurate. And so, if it were me and I'm on TV and my job is to get up there and start talking about who's playing well, who's not, I can't just like go off of what I heard other people say or just like go off of like big names from previous years that won awards. I have to like do research. And the only way I can do it is like, you want to know who's playing the best? Well, let me pull up stats, and at the very least, let me pull up box scores. Let me pull up like points per game and shooting percentages just to like start so I can figure out who's playing well. And then from there, like you get deeper and deeper into it. I just don't see how you could possibly discuss any of the games given that you don't watch them all, how else are you supposed to do it? Like, even if you're the perfect eye tester, you have to, in order to have the eye test, you have to put your eyes on the thing you're talking. You have to watch them. And Ryan Russillo had this great thing where he was like, they're talking about the Zion being overweight thing, and he was like, I know all you people in the media haven't been watching Zion because you're just now bringing up the fact that he's overweight in this like Vegas tournament. I've been saying it for months. The guy showed up week 1 overweight. Like, how are you just now like making this your take?
Speaking of that, what did you think now that the in-season tournament is completely in the rearview mirror? What's your opinion of it now?
I mean, I don't hate that like LeBron won it. I thought that was great. I think so. I think it, like, people can joke that it's like this Disneyland bubble thing or whatever, but like, I don't think you can deny that it adds to his legacy that he won the first one. It's kind of like winning like an improved All-Star Game MVP. Like, it doesn't mean a ton, but it is like a neat award to have. It means something. I think they were like 7-0. And overall, I thought the quarterfinals to the championship was like a really fun event. I enjoyed watching those games. I thought it was fun getting exposure to the Pacers that we don't have otherwise, because I think they only have one other nationally televised game all season. Seeing the Pelicans was fun. I mean, it's like I just don't see how, like, what negative you could draw from it. It was just like a fun, and it was nice having like Davis try really hard in the middle of the season. That was fun to watch. He was the MVP of that last game. He was incredible.
Yeah, it's a great take. All right, here's my take on the in-season tournament now with it completely done. During the first few weeks of the in-season tournament group play stage, there were guys crunching numbers who were saying basically like these games are closer. The point differential on average in these games is closer than the normal regular season game. And I don't know if that actually played out throughout the duration of the tournament or not, especially as teams started to get mathematically eliminated. I don't know if that actually played out or not anymore. But my takeaway ultimately was this. As a person who watches multiple NBA games every night of the year, whether it's a team that I like or it's just I have NBA League Pass on the background, I watch lots of NBA games. And my takeaway is that I am a user of League Pass who knows how to navigate to competitive NBA games every night. Every night there is dramatic, theatrical, high-level basketball being played, and I love it. And the in-season tournament, I think, just gave fans a reason to tune in and watch what was already always happening. That especially like some of us who are like real like League Pass nerds know, which is that there is theatrical, dramatic, highly entertaining, elite level basketball being played every night of the week. And if the in-season tournament gave more people a reason to like care about that and watch it and acknowledge that it's happening, and I think it did on some level, that's a win. But I hope the takeaway from the in-season tournament ultimately becomes like there's awesome basketball happening all the time. And do we need it to be branded as the in-season tournament for people to want to watch it? Because like if you just love the drama of sports, the NBA is the best league out there. It's not even close.
Yeah, I always watch the like quote unquote random games that are on like the TNT slate or like ESPN. And I feel like I kind of get the same teams on there over and over. You know, like if you have League Pass, you're like doing your own little red zone filtering where you're like watching the best games. And those best games aren't always the, you know, Knicks and Bucks and like the same teams over, like the freaking Heat and the Celtics play every Wednesday. And I'm like, how many times do I have to see these two teams play? I would rather like watch some of those other teams. So the in-season tournament for me was exciting because I got to watch the random Pacer game, you know, as opposed to like being forced to watch the Celtics versus the Sixers for the 100th time.
Yep, that's a good point. It worked. I think they could even build in a second in-season tournament that comes right before like All-Star break.
I thought this one was too short. Like the sample size was too small. Like you might as well just make it longer.
Or that would be fine too.
Like the 4 games, it was like shit. You look up and if you lose the first one, you're basically like eliminated like so quickly. You know, like you had to like win all of them. Like, at the end of it, you basically had to be 3-1 with a huge point differential, or you had to win every game.
Yep, exactly right. I thought it was a great product too. It was an event to watch, especially the championship game. And then here's the one criticism I have of it though that I know that they can hopefully fix. The one criticism I have is that for the 22 teams that didn't make the tournament bracket, they got to play each other 2 times, randomly matched. And then the 8 teams that made the tournaments had to play each other 2 times to fill in the 2-game gap to get to 82 games. Yeah. And the problem with that is the teams in the bottom 22, on average, are going to be worse than the teams that are in the top 8. And so if you're in the bottom 22, you can like luck into 2 free wins as a consequence of not making the tournament. There's an incentive. In other words, there's an incentive to not make the tournament bracket. Because if you don't, you can end up with 2 fairly easy to extremely easy games. And guess what? Here's what happened in Dallas. They didn't make the tournament of 8. And so instead, they got to play the Utah Jazz and the Portland Trailblazers.
Right.
So they got 2 free wins. Whereas if they had gone into the tournament, they might have to play Phoenix, and then if they win or lose, you still have to play another team that's in the top 8. So you're gonna have 2 tough games as opposed to 2 easy ones.
I think the Suns had to play the Lakers and the Kings.
Yeah, you have to play 2 playoff teams. So that's something that I think needs to be worked out. And people don't care about this right now, but like when we're doing playoff seeding in early April or late March, and teams are like 1 game back, and they're going to be like, you know,
especially in the West.
It could become an issue then. So that's the one thing that I think needs to be fixed is like getting more equity in opponent quality for those 2 bonus games.
Yeah, they kind of took that for granted, and that they were like, well, it'd just be more convenient and easier for travel and scheduling. Let's just have those teams match up instead of like stepping back and thinking like how this is going to affect the season.
Yeah. And like the trade-off though is that like if you don't do it that way, then you have to shuffle potentially like schedules weeks and weeks down the road, and then like you don't have a fully made schedule, and then that can interfere with people's travel plans and stuff.
This is easy to solve though. Just treat it like All-Star Week, where you just like give teams 5 days off, and who's going to complain about having, and just like make the season start 3 days earlier and end 2 days later, and you have like this 5-day break, because these teams are always complaining about back-to-backs and not having enough rest. Like no one's going to complain about a 5-day hiatus in the middle of the season. And then the teams that are in the tournament, obviously you have to like figure out like the makeup games or them playing 2 more than the team that didn't make it. But
yeah, agreed. Okay, I would be completely fine with that. All right, so that's going to do it for our comeback episode, our flu game, if you will. No, we rested actually when we had the flu. All right, now we pick a title.
We stopped answering questions like 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. There's so many. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. God, there's at least 25 questions that I didn't ask.
I think we got all the major ones that we missed while we were gone.
Yeah,
I think we got to all the big ones.
We got to the big ones. There's lots of nuanced collector questions that unfortunately we didn't get to, but I always save them, and if we run out of questions next week, I'll filter down to these.
Yep.
All right. Some of the episode titles.
All right.
Do you remember how to do this show? I like that one. Yeah, I like that one.
That's good.
The rule of the vault.
It's been placed upon from high.
Need that money for repacks. Hobby golems. Hobby golems.
Oh my god, I apologize once again to everyone.
Is it Goal or Gollum?
It's Gollum.
Golems. I used to play this game on PlayStation called Farmer Rancher, Animal Rancher, and they had a guy named Gollum. Stiff, if you're in there, what was that game called?
You should just tell people that you played Madden just so you can avoid whatever you just said. Farmer Rancher? What the fuck is happening?
Damn it, what was this? It was this game where you harvest Monster Rancher. That's what
I think what you meant to say is you played Call of Duty and Madden, right, dude?
Yeah, he likes to make fun of me because I like Lord of the Rings, and this idiot over here is like, oh, I played Monster. This is Monster Rancher.
It's like, hey, bro, hey Nick, remember when we played Frogger for like 5 years straight? It's like maybe don't admit that on a public TV show.
Look, they had a guy named Gollum. This was the Gollum from Monster Rancher.
Now Google Gollum or LOTR.
No.
Monster Rancher. That's gonna be something that's burned in my brain. I'm gonna like 3 months from now we're gonna be somewhere and I'm gonna be like, oh shit, is that back when you were playing Monster Rancher? And you're just gonna die.
The second picture looks familiar.
This was the guy that I used to raise. This guy was called Gabu. And this would be the guy that I would always pick this guy.
Search for Golem Pokemon. Golem.
Oh, you'll do that though?
Gollum. I know what the Gollum Lord of the Rings looks like.
There's your guy.
Wow. So Gollum tends to be like a spherical figure.
What platform was Monster Rancher?
I was playing it on PlayStation.
Okay.
Like the PlayStation 1.
I was thinking of like that Facebook game.
yeah. I know what you're talking about. I didn't play that game.
Which is like what I thought you meant. And I was just like, Jesus, that's bad. That's like a boomer game, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, I would never. I wouldn't even dream of it.
Okay, good. It's not Farmville. Yeah, I thought you meant Farmville, and I'm just like, oh my god, this show's sold.
No, I never did Farmville. All right. So hobby golems. Then you
people are all over that.
Then you have the talking dinguses.
The talking dinguses? Is that just like Stephen A's and those people? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you said that earlier, and Lauren had me write it down, but I was already writing it down. You referred to the talking dinguses.
Yeah, because the Draymond thing was ridiculous. All these people said the dumbest crap.
And then you had Draymond Green as a jackass.
Facts.
Then we have link to a blank website.
That one's pretty good. All the
pretty good.
content creators who don't actually click.
That could be Christina's going to make it to the finals of this naming. We have a repack ladder. We're not going to do that. Ready to lob angry comments.
Anything lobbing is funny to me.
Lob?
I just like lobbing things at people is funny.
All right. It's dangerous to overdose on grails.
You had your like big drug night, so that was good.
I did. Yeah, and then we also have drugs and guns. It's probably not.
Maybe not do that one.
No, nope. That one's not gonna make it. Coming out hot and going down. I don't know what that one refers to.
Sounds gross.
Punishment for the voters. And eye test guys go nuts.
I like how you distill them down to like remove all the context. That's what makes it great.
Yeah,
Like, we don't even remember what it was, but you get the snippets that make it just the best parts.
Indeed. All right, so
I've got 3.
okay, let's hear them.
I'm trying to remember the first one, but Talking Dinguses and then the Christina one are the 2 in the top 3. Then the other one was crap, I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, the other one was probably, do you remember how to do this show?
No, it was
Oh.
no. It was like right in that area though.
Need that money for repacks?
No.
Hobby golems?
No.
Or the rule of the vaults?
Never mind. I can't remember.
Okay, all right, so Talking Dinguses or Link to a Blank Website?
Yeah, those are good. What's yours? What do you got?
I think I'll lean towards Link to a Blank Website
There you go.
so that Christina can name this episode.
She was really excited about coming back tonight, so let's give her this.
Let's just give her this sympathy MVP.
Dude, after we give her this is the best part about this. After we give her a title, then we can just bombard her with things we want.
I think
I
we don't do that already.
Wouldn't expect anything less.
We should start having her plan like all kinds of fun stuff for us.
Hey, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
All right. Good to be back. See you guys next week.
We're reaching the top.
A lot has changed since Card Ladder began. We started with 500 cards in our database, and now we have over 3 million cards and over 30 million sales.
For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
With Card Ladder's sales history feature, we have virtually every card in our system. If the card you are looking for ever sold on one of these platforms, you can find it using Card Ladder's sales history, and you can add a card to your collection with just one click.
My time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Plus, every card, no matter the last time it sold, has an estimated value that we calculated using our state-of-the-art player indexes. Unlike other apps, when you see Card Ladder's verified checkmark, that means a researcher personally vetted each and every sale.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
We know what you want, because Card Ladder was created by collectors for collectors.
Know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Join the innovators, not the imitators. Card Ladder 2.0, constantly innovating. Try it for free. See why Card Ladder is the industry leader in sports card data.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Card Ladder 2.0.